It's Nolan. Rapper, writer, hit me for the deal on Fiverr. If forever permanent, take Kaiser. Call a nigga on his bluff like Shire. Atlanta, city, varsity, monstrosity. Lawfully the illest nigga, you can't run with me. Probably need an army for you to come talk with me. Quit stealing my status, grand larceny. How many folks have I put on game? Now I see the bodies trying to swerve my lane. Copy format, but they can't sustain. I got the neck going crazy like CeeLo Green. I won awards on what the Forbes getting from all sources. Tours with the Porsches, pass me the torches. Boss of all bosses, a killer with the conscience. Get in my top low like Nintendo cartridge. I'm a great investment, walking casement. Please respect the get G check for your exit. Been protected, guard and guard body. The Godfather call my walk like John Gotti. I'm dipped in all money. I praise the Almighty. When y'all speaking the balls, suggest you talk lightly. No, y'all don't like me. I don't give no FUCs, but I put the key to your temple. Dog plain and simple. This a jack move. Rap dudes better pass through with some peace shit. Got a black queen and I'm finna lead with niggas MP. Get it poppin' like Riesling. I don't mind reaching. I'm an Autobot. Got the automatic cock from the brick of padded locks. Independent like Koch. Niggas better stop. Link with the watch. Nigga wrist got Cardi, but I think I want the WAP. Black soprano, Benny the Butcher. Punk niggas like Aston Kutcher. Spit crack like Pusha. 5 shots at your feet. Make you dance like us. And no, you cannot touch them. Whip look like custard. Got props like Buster. Nigga up like Cup. But might blow y'all cover. Nigga eat like lunch. You came straight from the dungeon. Push P on them P's on this P production. It's Nolan. What's going on, beautiful people? It's the kid J Nolan here. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Industry, your number one source for music, entertainment, commentary, and breakdowns. Hope everyone's doing well out there. Let me justify my thug real quick. I'm just fucking around. But if y'all enjoyed that freestyle opening up the show, that is my cash in, cash out freestyle over Pharrell's beat, which also featured Tyler the Creator, 21 Savage, and I forgot who else was on that song. But yeah, man, in this particular video, we're going to be getting into Pharrell's latest interview with GQ, in which he addressed Drake. Of course, they asked him about Drake buying his jewelry, his renowned jewelry, famous jewelry, the colorful joints, and melting them down allegedly. And then, of course, that never happened. They ended up in the Family Matters music video, blah, blah, blah. They asked him about that. In the interview, he also speaks about, his mindset as in today, just being humble, being gracious, detaching from the past, things of that nature. In the interview, he also speaks on Andre 3000's ideas of aging in hip hop, feeling like he's too old to rap or too old to release music in the form of hip hop. He also speaks on Tyler the Creator. Tyler the Creator's on a crazy run right now. As everyone should know by now, he is heavily inspired by Pharrell. The contents of his music speak to that influence every chance he can possibly get. So he also speaks about him in this GQ interview as well. All right. Now, there's only certain interviews that we cover on this channel, but when we do, we try to give the artist the opportunity to be seen, heard, especially when it's text. Because again, most people don't read. So I'm going to go through it, see where Pharrell currently is in his thought process and whatnot, and how he feels about the select current events that he's open to speaking on. All right. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get to it. All right. So at the start of the interview, this is with GQ once again. They say we should start with joy. Joy is not only an experience and an emotion, but it's an art form, and it's the color I paint with, right? So that's Pharrell actually stating that, excuse me. And they ask him, why are we starting there? He says, well, before we started rolling, you talked about our 2019 interview, and I don't ever read my interviews, but I'm pretty sure that I talked about my gratitude, and gratitude has brought me far in life, and the sense of joy that I feel is the next step up. So if you catch Pharrell out these days, he's on very much Zen vibes. You know what I'm saying? He's been that way for quite some time. He kind of looks back with an embarrassed outlook on his early to mid 2000s self. He was trying to keep up with Diddy. He was trying to keep up with Jay-Z and the egocentric vibe of hip hop, the the hyper masculinity that was going on, which is what excuse me, influenced him to even buy those jewels that he ended up selling on the market later on, was because he wanted to outdo what they were doing. But at the time, he wasn't even financially compatible to what they were doing. He's talked about this in other interviews if you ever delve through any of his other stuff that's out there over the years. Anyway, they say we talked a lot about humility last time too. He says that's forever the exercise. I like this idea. This is where GQ comes in. I like this idea that a life can be spent evolving through a focus on different emotions. So this is an era of exploration and discovery of joy for you. He says joy is a result. The exploration is just like humility, empathy, gratitude, chivalry. After living so much of my life one way, they ask which was how. He says ambitious but arrogant. That speaks to what I was saying before, the arrogance, the ego, right? Pompous at times. They say not a complete unbridled asshole, but cocky. He says, yet. Whereas what I've learned now is that when you err on the side of humility, empathy, gratitude, chivalry, your talent is your talent. Your gift is your gift. So when you fuse all those things in it, that produces joy. My appointment here is so much bigger than apparel, footwear, bags, accessories, trunks, etc. Right? They say stuff. He says campaigns, shows, windows. He says, man, I think about the shoes and bags that we're about to drop, bro. You will remember this conversation. It's so crazy. But it took the brand tapping me on the shoulder to say, hey, you're supposed to be in this position and this is what you're supposed to do. The appointment is not just here at LV. It's an appointment to my life. In every situation that I encounter, my job is to produce joy. So he's currently designing and working with Louis Vuitton, which is one of those coveted positions that a lot of people in hip hop have wanted, and outside of hip hop, not just us in hip hop. A lot of people have wanted to work for LV, right? But in hip hop, we've had the Kanyes, the Virgils, the Pharrells that have joined those fashion houses. That fashion house in particular, excuse me. They say, I think people have a hard time accepting somebody as successful as you, constantly articulating humility and gratitude, always bowing. He says, I'm sure. We're going to skip some of this. Okay, they say, I guess part of what you're saying is you once were, right? You tried the exact opposite. He says it was the worst. It was the worst. It's embarrassing. See, same thing I was saying before. When you really realize how this shit worked, you didn't sell 1 million songs. You made a song and 1 million people liked it because 100 people promoted it and the conditions were perfect for you. There's so many components to your success. You are one little part of it. I like this part of the interview right here. So when we talk about numbers, this is a big conversation in hip hop. Selling 1 million songs or selling 1 million records, or who did 30,000, 60,000, 200,000, 400,000 first week, right? We talk about this stuff and we, throw these numbers around as if real people don't actually have to go out and do this. If you're able to get 1,000 motherfuckers to do anything in this world, you're succeeding in some way, right? Especially if it's a dollar amount attached to it. So he says, yo, let's not forget, if you sell a million copies, that's because 1 million people fucked with it. And you had just a small count of 100 or so people promoting it. And they were able to amplify it to that 1 million people who ended up fucking with it. You know what I'm saying? So just keep it all in perspective, that you don't just look at it as 1 million. You say that and it encompasses all of those people. But there's 1 million individuals that fall into that should be appreciated. That's basically what he's saying. And you're a small part of it yourself, although they got it from you. I like that. Here they say you might find it embarrassing, but a lot of people liked your flashy era. You were very good at it, very innovative. Now in your Vuitton era, you've dialed the flashiness back up without it being a contradiction to the humility and gratitude. How can you have it both ways? He says silence, believe it or not, that's the difference. Because he was boastful, and that's what the In My Mind album was for a lot of the lyrics. It was very boastful. I loved it. It was very influential to me. I think Tyler, the Creator, talks about that album all the time as well. I think for a lot of people that were of the Star Trek era, not the fucking TV show, but Pharrell, Neptunes, and everything that they did, that shit was impactful. Although he didn't sell 1 million copies on that album, I think that's why he never wanted to really go back and do it again until he later began singing more. But whatever. Um, so boom, they say, I know you just said silence, so forgive me, but this is an interview. I need you to say more. He says, silence is an exercise. Allowing your work to speak for you is an exercise. Being okay with the fact that most people are going to miss it. Being extra okay with the fact that people who don't miss it, who decide they want to act like it was their idea, they're going to get very loud about it and they're going to get the credit for it. Until some of the real sleuths out there be like, nah, here go the receipts. And you wait on that. But you stay in silence. Nico San, he taught me that. I believe he's talking about Nico from Bathing Ape. He don't say nothing. As Pusha says, if you know, you know. Okay? So here's where we start getting toward the Drake shit. 2 years ago, you founded an online auction platform called Jupiter. To launch it, you got all of your iconic custom jewelry, stuff from, let's call it your hubris, era, out of storage and sold it. Was that stuff weighing on you? He says, I didn't realize. You never realize how much all of the stuff you have weighs on you, but it does. You don't know until you get rid of it. The muscles in my back, now they work without straining. When you let that go, man, you feel so free. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist in the world. It's still there, and whatever happens to them, happens to them. Now, for some of y'all that were here not too long ago when we did the coverage of Kendrick Lamar and SZA's Harper's Bazaar interview, if you can listen to the context of what he's saying and go back and look at the Kendrick Lamar interview to how he was responding and the way he was speaking and the peace, I guess you could say, or the tranquil or the zen that both of them respond to questions in, there's very much a similarity between the two perspectives of these guys, which is, I'd imagine, why they clicked. I'd imagine that's why Pharrell has at least one song on just about every Kendrick Lamar album since Good Kid, Mad City. He was on there. He was on To Pimp a Butterfly. I don't know if he made it on Damn, but he's also got production credits on Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers too. So just about every album, studio album, they've collaborated. And a bunch of the unreleased music that came from the Mr. Morale archives and stuff that got leaked out, a lot of that was over Pharrell's beats as well. So they made a gang of shit leading up to Mr. Morale. But we'll keep going. Basically talking about getting rid of the baggage that his jewelry had become and allowing him to free himself of that era and that time and that whatever they represented to him, right? So they say, right, in this case, Drake buys a bunch of it. He says, sure. How and when did you find out he was the buyer and where you were like, is this for blank? Pharrell says, no, because I think beyond all of the ongoings, at the heart of all of it, he's a fan of music. He's a fan of the history of what it is. And I happen to be a part of that, and those artifacts are a part of it. So this is where we're talking about Drake. And he says he really wasn't concerned with who the buyer was. Although Drake was the buyer, he's claiming he didn't even think twice about that shit. You know what I'm saying? Whoever wanted it, whoever got it, whoever had the money to, equate to whatever his asking price was, great. Do with that what you want, man. It's yours now. Right? And he says he's a fan of music, he's a fan of history. So, of course, I'm not surprised that he would show up because, I mean, let's be real. This is the same guy that bought Pusha T's Clips mic or something like that when he was coming out of high school. He wanted a mic that represented the Clips because he was a big fan of what their movement had going on. He's worked with Drake in the past. Like, they had a cool relationship, but based on Pharrell's lifetime allegiance and friendship with Pusha T, I guess Drake decided to start taking aim at Pharrell. Of course, Pharrell was producing records that Pusha T was dissing him on. So I guess at a certain point, it's like, I can't just overlook the fact that this man is dissing me. I got to also look at the fact that you're making the records that he's doing it on. You're laying vocals on, doing ad-libs on this stuff. So I think you co-signing this shit is fuck you too. I guess that's how Drake was trying to get on it, right? To me, that's the actions of a man that's really with the shits. I don't see Drake as that person, but I think that's who he was trying to portray musically, right? And physically, when he bought the jewelry and claimed that he was going to melt it down, and then he had people flexing Pharrell's jewelry in the music video, he was kind of trying to make it look like, yeah, we got your shit. Come get it. Come get your boy's legacy out of my house, right? You saying it like you stole it when you paid great money for it. It's weird, right? And of course, Kendrick Lamar said he's willing to inherit that beef in you know, in his honor. Like, ain't nobody gonna be out here pushing P. Ain't nobody gonna be bullying Pharrell. He's the Zen master. I'll step in and crash out just because I don't fuck with you. No way, right? So cool, keep going. So when you found out he bought them, you were like, cool? He said, yeah. And then he was rapping about melting the jewelry down and saying, come get his legacy out in my house and all that stuff. How did that strike you? He says it didn't. Once again, alluding to the fact he gives no fucks. They ask him again, that didn't strike you? He says no. Furthermore, they state, it's interesting that these things are weighing on you. You get rid of them, somebody else takes them on, and what they mean to him, I guess that's for him to decide, he says, or not. He don't give a fuck. Again, he says, I guess some things are not for me to understand. When you let things go, a huge part of it is actually letting go. Not just the physical item, but letting go of your connection to what it's supposed to mean or the memory. You're literally letting them go. That was the purpose. It's like when people sell something and they go, I just want to make sure you take care of it because this is my baby. And I'm like, no. This is not my baby. That's why I'm letting it go. He's saying some people try to still hold on to the emotional attachment of their items in which they're selling and want you to take great care of it because it still means something to them. He's saying, no, nigga, I don't give a fuck what happened to it. That's why I'm selling it. That's why I'm letting it go. That was the whole purpose. Right? Because I'm sure he could have donated the shit to some sort of hip hop museum if it was really about upholding his legacy or upholding, and that's crazy too, right? To deduce Pharrell and everything that he's done in his career to reduce his legacy down to some chains and rings. Okay. All right. We're gonna skip over some of this, but they start talking to him about Louis Vuitton, right? So let's talk about the best day on the job. He says every day, right? But there has to have been a particular day because the next question is going to be most challenging day. So far, I'm trying to give people some texture of what it's like to be you in the LV era. He says, but what's the challenge, man? I'm from the mud. So what's the challenge? Right? So he's saying from where I come from, this ain't challenging. This is just life. It is what it is. Right? They say, well, I didn't say the worst, most awful, terrible, horribly unacceptable day on the job. He says, listen, can you see this? He walks over to the office window, looks over the Sinai River or whatever that is. And he's like, look, you know what I mean? So he's basically saying, do you see where I'm at? Do you see where I get to work and you get to see what I'm producing and the amount of abundance and blessings I have in my life? I'm not here to complain or discount any of it, right? So they say, oh, there's an encampment between us and the river. He says, yeah, you see people who have a very different experience than we do. Who knows why they're there? Who knows what the situation is? I'm from the mud. We were in public housing. You can't ever say that public housing is like being homeless and living in the street, but you can say that the way that people live and what their resources are at the time is relative. I could be anywhere. The ideas that I have for LV trunks could just be ideas while I'm at my day job. You know what I'm saying? So he's relating this to the average everyday person who may have the same ideas that he has, but will never get the opportunity to express them at a Louis Vuitton, right? Furthermore, they say it's definitely true that there are a lot of young people out there who are designing the next Louis Vuitton collection in their heads. He says who may or may not ever get that opportunity. They say, yeah, definitely may not. And that's his point. So how is every day not amazing? I know everything isn't awesome for everybody, but it can be if you were to retool and level set your appreciation, level set your wherewithal. It can be amazing. Let's get past the photos. Okay. So here they ask him about the last 20 months. and when he lost the connection to his gratitude and got outside of himself. He says it's a big system. Sometimes you want it to move as quick as you ideate or iterate. Sometimes there's drag, but I'm blessed to be in a system where they listen and we articulately explain why we think something is a drag and how it could be more efficient. This is a system that listens, so there's moments where you gotta exercise patience, and we do. They ask him, what's it like having a job at a corporation after so many years of artistic independence? He says, well, it's a house that happens to be machined by a corporation. It's not a job. He says, because I don't have a boss. It's a house. And I've been asked to come in and be the creative director. I mean, I love Louis Vuitton CEO Pietro Beccari, and he appointed me, but he is not my boss. They say, and Bernard Arnault is not your boss either. He says, no, I'm in a house. It literally operates like a house. Obviously, it's his house and they pay me very well, but no one's like, you better do this and you need to do that. It's like an artist in residence. So it's very different. I wouldn't have taken it if somebody thought they was my boss. I'm good. I'm blessed. Okay? And again, I'm going to skip some of this shit. So now we get to the part here where they ask him if his role at Louis Vuitton has changed his role in terms of music, right? They say, has the role at Louis Vuitton changed the role that music plays in your life? He says it has, but not in the way that you would assume. They say, is it fair to assume there's less time for music? He says more time. They ask, how is that possible? Because the Vuitton appointment has centralized me in a place where I can do more music. You've been to the music studio within the design studio. So there's both. They say yes. And he says, and I got 2 other rooms. Before, I was just taking music everywhere I went. Now music is at the heart of everything that I'm doing. So he can go from one room to the next, work on fashion, work on designs, work on ideas, go to the board meetings. And then when he's done with that, he can go settle into a music studio and create rather than having to take it everywhere he's going with machines and shit, right? I'm interested to see what that means for him musically. So they say, we were shooting Future and Metro Boomin last night in Miami. He says, can you tell Future that I'm obsessed with mixtape Pluto? Man, Pluto ski. Fucking say gang. They say, I like Brazier, but it struck me that Future is 40 years old and he has had 3 #1 albums in 6 months. I still don't believe that Future is getting the amount of credit and love that he should be getting for having 3 #1 albums in a 6-month span. Nobody else has done that shit. Okay. And I think the only other person that really had a equivalent year is the Beatles. So I know Future probably doesn't have the greatest PR representative in the world, but people should be screaming that shit from the mountaintops. If any other artists in the industry had 3 #1 albums in a 6-month span, we wouldn't be hearing the end of it. Just got to be honest. Anyway, they say, of street music, that's not supposed to happen in rap. You said to me that Jimmy Iovine once told you it's impossible to have a hit past 40. So I feel that this narrative around aging in hip hop music is evolving. He says Pusha was the first one to really talk about people aging gracefully in hip hop. He'd been talking about it for years. Jay-Z did it really well. They say, meanwhile, Andre 3000 has been talking for years about how it's impossible to age well in hip hop. Pharrell states, yeah. He has been, and he's such a GOAT. People got all this judgment, and they don't understand. People should just give him his time. He's going to be back. That feeling finds you. You can't run from it. He not running. He just saying he not going to force it. What you love about him was when he was compelled. It'll be back, and when it does, he's going to come in hot. I like that. Don't rush him. Give him his time. Maybe he feels that way today, but if you create in this fashion, most likely you're going to get the bug or the itch to create in this fashion again. Now, whenever that time comes, he's not forcing it, but it'll come, right? That's how Pharrell looks at it, because I'm sure at a certain point, because there was a time when Pharrell wasn't out here like going crazy, producing for everybody. Perhaps he was considering leaving it all behind, but sometimes you get those calls. That call could be internal, it could be external. That puts you right back in the swing of things, right back in the thick of it, even if that's only for a moment in time, right? So they say, when you're making music, do you ever catch yourself reaching for something you're hearing from the youth? Do you ever find yourself reaching for a trend? He says, no, I don't reach for no trend, and I ain't reaching for nothing that I used to do. The trend was doing documentaries. I said, no. They asked, what does he mean? He says, well, I mean, with Piece by Piece, the Lego movie that he has out right now, the Lego animated biopic. He says 6-7 years ago, my very persistent agent kept asking about doing a documentary. I was like, no, I don't give a fuck who's doing it, man. We already got them. They doing it. I don't want to do what everybody else is doing, bro. You know me. If everybody is stuck in traffic, I want to take the plane. So rather than do a standard documentary where he just sits down and talks about his life and all of the things that happened, he preferred to express his life story with Legos and give it to the kids. And there's some very adult moments as far as like the music in the studio and like things he encountered, but it's still a learning exercise and stuff for kids while still relating to the parents who actually witnessed a lot of his life, you know? They say it's been cool to see you at so many fashion shows. Why have you been going to other designer shows and what have you learned? I really don't give a fuck about that. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Cool. Let's get to the Tyler thing. They say you likewise opened up the doors of LV to Tyler, the Creator, for collaboration this year. What was the best moment of working together? Boom. He says, me calling him to tell him. He's 30-something now and rarely gets the opportunity to be a kid again. He's lived so much life in the last 10 years, the growing pains of becoming a world-renowned artist. So that was my favorite moment. Wait, who, me? Seriously? Whoa. I guess that's Tyler's response. He says he crushed it. I really just stood to the side and let him rock. Okay. I really wish they would have asked him a little bit more about Tyler in this interview, especially with the friendship that they have and the similarities and the influence he's had on him. But, you know, it is what it is. That's what we've got here. But yeah, man, that's Pharrell and GQ. In which they asked him about his current position with Louis Vuitton. They asked him about the Drake situation and the beef and all of that stuff going on. He seems detached, very far from it. Cares not what happens with those, the jewelry and the artifacts that Pharrell sold on the market that Drake ended up buying and subsequently trying to throw in his face. He's not attached to that. They asked him about, Tyler. They collaborated on some Louis Vuitton stuff. They asked him about Andre 3000 and him not wanting to return to hip hop or whatever the case may be. He says, give him time. He'll be back. All right. Some people may have expected him to disparage him or say something off the wall. If you expected that, I don't know why you did. But that's what we've got, man. Let me know what y'all thought of this interview. Go check it out for yourself to see the entire thing. Of course, that is with GQ once again. But yeah, man, if this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, become an insider. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one. Be sure to like and share the video, all right? I'm going to catch y'all later. Peace.
King of my city in cul-de-sac. Coming out swinging like soldier rags. Leading my people like quarterback. Boy, I study this shit, I'm an almanac. Had to get up and grind. Knowledge is booming, I'm here to apply. Came with the chip and the dip, it just single the mind. We finna do more than survive. I need my check. Spinning the block for the Gouda. We hitting the jeweler to flood out the net. We don't do beef on computers, I'm straight out the sewer. We come when you rest. Niggas be looking perplexed, so keeping my foot on their neck. No map, I trust my gut for the quest. With drama, I'm fully abreast. I was ready for years and they doubted me. All of a sudden they tell me they proud of me. I been dropping these haters like calories. Cross them out, I came back with some batteries. Stand for my honor, but too raw, no corner. Packing the stick with a drummer. Wanna catch my bad, won't fumble. I done came too far to be humble.